She had chosen the supply room because it was the one place on the station with a door that actually locked from the inside, and because the inventory manifest listed it as low traffic, non-critical, which meant no one had a reason to need her there. Lieutenant Aveline Osai sat on the floor between a shelf of coolant cartridges and a crate of spare filtration mesh, knees pulled to her chest, and did the thing she had not let herself do in front of anyone in 14 months. She did not hear the door open. She heard it lock again from the inside, which was worse, because that meant someone had come in on purpose. Ensign Toriak Vest stood in the doorway for exactly 4 seconds, taking in the room the way he took in every room, cataloging exits, air pressure, the position of every object relative to every other object. Then he did something that was not in any protocol she had ever read for a Cathari serving aboard a human vessel. He sat down on the floor next to her, not across from her. Next to her, shoulder nearly touching hers, back against the same shelf, facing the same direction she was facing, which was nowhere in particular. He did not ask what was wrong. The Cathari had joined the Meridian Reach 11 weeks earlier, as part of a liaison exchange nobody on either side had wanted, and both governments had insisted on. Vess had a reputation among the crew for precision bordering on unsettling. He counted things. Footsteps between decks, seconds between someone's sentences, the exact number of times a given crew member sighed during a shift. He had never once used any of it against anyone. Os had noticed that early, filed it away, and moved on, because she did not have room in her schedule or her chest for noticing things about the alien liaison. She noticed anyway. That was the problem. There had been a moment 3 weeks earlier that she had not told anyone about. A power fluctuation in the aft corridor had thrown the lights into flicker, and for 2 seconds the whole deck had gone the deep blue-black of emergency lighting. And Vess, 3 meters ahead of her, walking to a briefing neither of them wanted to be at, had stopped, turned, and waited without a word until she caught up, before continuing on as if nothing had happened. She had asked him about it once, days later, phrased carefully, half joking. "Why'd you wait? You do not like corridors in low light," he had said. "You told Ensign Park that once. I was 3 meters away. I heard it." She had not known what to do with that. She still did not. They sat for 11 minutes without speaking. Os counted them on the wall clock because counting was easier than crying, and crying was easier than admitting why. Her mother's last transmission had arrived 9 days ago, delayed 6 months in transit the way all civilian mail from the outer colonies was delayed. And it had said, "I'm proud of you," in a voice recorded before the diagnosis. Before Os even knew there had been one, before there had been any chance to say anything back. 9 days she had carried it. 9 days of standing watch, running diagnostics, eating in the mess with her face arranged correctly, because grief had no slot in the duty roster and she did not know how to ask for one. Vess did not know any of this. He simply understood, with the specific and terrible accuracy of someone who counted things, that she had not eaten a full meal in 4 days, had stopped answering personal correspondence, and had rerouted her sleep cycle to avoid the 2 crewmates she was closest to. He had not asked anyone for permission to notice this. He had simply noticed, and then he had followed her. "You do not have to tell me," he said finally, when the 11 minutes became 12. His voice was quiet and careful, the way it always was when he spoke English, a language he had learned specifically, deliberately in the 18 months before this posting, so that no human aboard would ever have to strain to understand him. "I know," Osai said. "I am not leaving," he said. "I want to be specific about that. Not asking is not the same as not staying." She laughed once, a broken thing that turned halfway into a sob. "That's a very Cathari distinction." "It is an accurate one," he said, and did not smile, because Cathari did not smile the way humans did. But something in the set of his shoulders eased half a degree, and she had learned in 11 weeks to read that as warmth. She told him, not all of it, not at first. "Just the fact of it, my mother, she's gone, the message came late." And he listened with his whole body still, the way he listened to hull stress reports, as though every word carried structural weight. When she finished, he did not offer comfort in the shape she expected. He did not say, "I'm sorry," a phrase he had once told her he found strange, because sorrow was not something one could be responsible for on another person's behalf. Instead, he said, "Tell me one thing she said to you, any one thing. I would like to know something true about her." It was such an odd request, and such a precise one, that Osai found herself answering before she decided to. She used to say, "I counted stairs when I was nervous." As a kid, she said I'd stand at the bottom of any staircase and count it before I climbed it. Do you still do that? Sometimes. How many steps to the observation deck from here? 41. He nodded once as though filing the number somewhere permanent. I did not know that about you. Thank you for telling me something true. Why does that matter to you? She asked. The truth of it specifically. He considered this for longer than the question seemed to warrant. Because most of what I am told aboard this ship is procedural. Correct, but not true. You just told me something true. I do not receive that often. I wanted to acknowledge it before the moment closed. She did not have an answer for that, so she let the silence hold instead, and he let it hold with her. And for the first time in 9 days, it did not feel like a silence she was drowning in. They stayed another 20 minutes. He did not touch her because he had learned, weeks earlier and without being told, that she flinched from casual contact and did not flinch from proximity, and he had adjusted for that the way he adjusted for atmospheric pressure differentials. Automatically, without comment, because it was simply correct. At some point she asked him, do Cathari grieve? Is there a, I don't know, a version of this for you? There is a word, he said. Nevash, it does not translate cleanly. The closest human concept is the weight that remains after subtraction. We do not cry as a rule. Our bodies do something else, a stillness, a slowing of the pulse rate, sometimes for days. My crew mistook it once for illness. Once, when my sister was killed in a transit accident 4 years ago, I went still for 6 days. The ship's physician nearly relieved me of duty. Osai turned to look at him properly for the first time since he'd sat down. You never told me that. You never asked, he said without any edge to it, only the same plain accuracy he applied to everything. I am not withholding, Lieutenant. I simply do not offer information unprompted unless I believe it will help. I believed, just now, it might help you to know I understood something of the shape of this, even if the shape is not identical. It helps, she said quietly, and meant it more than the 2 words could carry. When she finally stood, her knees stiff from the floor, he stood with her, matching her movement exactly, the way he matched the rotation of every door he'd ever walked through. You will be at your station in 6 minutes, he said. I have recalculated your shift. I switched with Ensign Park. You have the observation deck instead for 1 hour alone if you want it. You didn't have to do that. I did not have to notice you were not eating either, he said. I did it regardless. She almost asked him how long he had been planning that particular arrangement. Whether it was made in the 4 seconds he'd stood in the doorway, or earlier, days earlier, quietly rerouted and held in reserve for whenever she finally broke. She decided she did not want to know the answer badly enough to risk hearing it. She went to the observation deck. 41 steps, counted without meaning to. She stood at the viewport for the full hour Vess had bought her, and somewhere in the second half of it, without deciding to, she stopped holding her breath the way she had been holding it for 9 days. She thought, standing there, about the transfer orders sitting unopened in her queue. The liaison exchange was a 2-year rotation, and Vess was 11 weeks into 11 weeks she had not let herself count. And in a year and 9 months he would be recalled to Cathari space, and she would still be here, on a station that would feel, she suspected, considerably emptier than it had 11 weeks ago. She had not let herself finish that thought before. She let herself finish it now, standing in front of the stars, and it did not fix anything, but it clarified something, the way grief sometimes clarified things it had no business clarifying. When her hour ended, he was standing at the entrance to the deck, not inside it. He had not followed her in, only made certain from a precise and respectful distance that she would not have to walk back to duty alone. 41 steps, he said when she reached him. You counted them too. I count most things, he said. I found I wanted to count that one specifically. She looked at him for a long moment, at the careful stillness of him, the exactness that had once seemed unsettling and now seemed like the gentlest thing anyone had done for her in 9 days. Your rotation ends in a year and 9 months, she said. It was not a question. 1 year, 8 months, and 11 days, he said. I am aware of the exact figure. I recalculate it periodically. I had not intended to tell you that. Why not? Because it is not useful information. It does not change the duration. It only changes whether you carry it alongside me. He paused, and something in his usual precision faltered just slightly, just once. I have found in the last 11 weeks that I would prefer you carry it alongside me regardless. I am uncertain if that preference is appropriate to state aloud. You just stated it. I am aware, he said. I decided the truth of it mattered more than the propriety. She said, thank you for not asking back there, in the supply room. You are welcome, Toriak Vess said. I intend to keep not asking for as long as you need me to. I have already adjusted the count. And after, when you don't need to not ask anymore. He looked at her, really looked. The 4-second cataloging stillness he gave to every room, turned now on her alone, and said, Then I will ask you exactly one thing, Lieutenant. Only once. I have already decided what it will be. I am simply waiting for the correct number of steps between now and then. How many is that? I do not know yet, he admitted. And for the first time since she had met him, he looked almost uncertain, which on a Cathari face was a smaller and stranger thing than a smile, and somehow larger. I am still counting. Counting.